today, and then we'll work to get that out on our website where we're trying to put all of the materials from our meetings. So welcome everybody to the quarterly Computer Science Advisory Board meeting. Appreciate you all taking time out of your day to join us today. And doing it via our new world of virtual meetings. So we'll start with a quick update around what's been going on the last little bit with the Alliance, and then we've got some folks from Howard Suamico School District who will share with us some of their key learnings about the value of starting up a local advisory board. And then we'd like to have kind of a group discussion around best practices and learnings for keeping our educational systems running and continuing education of our youth during this crazy time that we find ourselves in. And then we'll wrap up and be on our way for the afternoon. Quick reminder, kind of some web meeting best practices here. If you don't mind, please mute your microphones. That way if your kids come running in with a question or the dog starts barking because the UPS guy is delivering something, we don't all hear it. And then let's keep our cameras off as much as possible. That just helps improve the performance of everything, so we don't overwhelm the pipeline here. And then if you have questions, I think what I've done is I've kind of broken up today's presentation into various sections. So I think we'll stop at the end of each section and ask for questions. You can either speak up, and when you do, if you don't mind sharing your name so we kind of know who we're communicating with, or feel free to send your questions via the online chat. And then before I get into the updates, first off, I really want to send out a huge round of applause to all of you for the changes that you guys have adapted to the world around you, and the speed at which you all were able to move from working in the classroom to setting up remote classrooms, whether that has meant that you've moved your classes online or are working to print off materials that are being sent home to the students in your district. The amount of change and the speed at which it's occurred is unprecedented, and you guys have all done an amazing job. So thank you. And if you can, reach around behind yourself and give yourself a pat on the back, because you all truly, truly deserve it. Whether regardless of your role at the school district, everybody, you've all pulled together and just done an amazing job. So thank you for everything you've done. All right, so Alliance updates. It's been a while, so I thought, wow, gosh, I don't think we have met since the new Connect IT event that was held back in November at Lambeau Field. So I want to just give you a little bit of an update there. We had a fantastic day. We brought in 560 high school students from around Northeast Wisconsin joined us at Lambeau that day, and were introduced to IT career pathways. They got to meet IT professionals and learn about the various jobs they did. They got a panel discussion of young students who are in college and young new hires in the region who got to talk about their pathways and careers that they've entered into or will be entering into. The students connected with our regional colleges to learn about the programs there. And then of course, they also connected with about 25 employers in the booth area that day. So students came from all across Northeast Wisconsin. We even had a couple of districts from Central Wisconsin who heard about the event and joined us. So it was a fantastic day, lots of learning, and we are looking forward to the repeat of this event coming up in November of this year. A little bit more, kind of just a little bit broader overview of what the Alliance has been doing or what we're up to and kind of what's going on here in Northeast Wisconsin. From the Alliance perspective, we've got several things going on at the K-12 level. Our CS Advisory Board, which you're part of right here today, We've also launched a K-12 task force. We've got a handful of educators who are joining us on a monthly basis. We've only met once, be meeting monthly moving forward, to talk about challenges you guys face in the classroom, understand what kind of tools you might like to have in the classroom to help educate your students on the world of IT, engage them in the classroom, interest them to attract them into your computer science classes, and even how do we communicate home to mom and dad about the IT career field. Then back in February, when we were otherwise scheduled to have our advisory board meeting, we partnered with Microsoft, and they launched their computer science talent ecosystem in Brown County. So CISA 7 is working in the Brown County region to roll out computer science and coding education to all students within the Brown County area. The idea being that by the time they graduate, every student in Brown County should have had exposure to coding and computer science at some point in their educational pathway. And then, of course, at the K-12 level, we also run the New Connect IT event every November, and we hope all of you will be joining us there. So more on that to come. At the college level, we meet regularly with the deans who oversee our IT departments, our IT programs at our local colleges, and kind of talk about what their challenges are, what they're doing to attract students, how can we connect them both to the employers, but also down to the K-12s, and exploring things we can do in that arena. We also host tech talks at our local colleges throughout the academic year. They right now, as with so much, however, are put on hold for the time being, and we'll be relaunching those again golly, I can't talk. Relaunching those again in the fall. And the tech talks, those we bring in guest speakers to the campus. We order in pizza for the students, and we learn about exciting leading edge technology that's being used here in Northeast Wisconsin. And not only are the college students invited to that, but our communities are too. So you can look for those as opportunities to come, usually after school or after work hours. So feel free to join us at those, or even encourage your high school students to participate at the tech talks if it's at a campus near them. Then surveys, we've been doing the Digital Learning Opportunities Survey for some time, which many of you are familiar with. That was just resent out to your districts last week. A few of you have already started filling those out and completing them. These surveys do go out to your superintendents. So if, love your help in making sure that they're looking at that and completing it. And then we do share that survey data out at our June event. We've also sent out surveys to our colleges and collected data back on their IT programs at our local collegiate institutions. And then new this year, we've launched an IT professional community survey. So we can really start seeing what are we doing in K-12, what are we doing at the higher ed, and then what's going on in the professional community as far as needs, gaps, pay scales, and so forth. Really trying to get a holistic picture of the IT ecosystem in Northeast Wisconsin. And then we are also working to pull together a survey regarding the COVID impact on our summer internship opportunities in the region. Then finally, kind of things that we're doing more at a regional level. So this is, we encourage our educators, our IT professionals, and organizations to participate in our quarterly meetings. We have one coming up on April 30th, where we will be learning about quality testing in an agile environment. And then our Tech Talent Summit, which will be that June meeting that I mentioned earlier. So we've typically billed that as our Digital Learning Opportunities event. We're rebranding that to be our Tech Talent Summit. Then we are gathering our forces to launch a COVID-19 regional task force, essentially trying to take a deep dive in what did we learn as a region, what can we do better, how can we come out of this stronger, where have we got gaps that we need to close. One of those gaps, for example, being the broadband gap that we have in the community where we have the haves and the have-nots, and it's impacting not only our professionals and their ability to work during COVID if they do not have internet connectivity at home, but it's also impacting our students' ability to learn both at K-12 and the collegiate level. So those are some of the things that we will be talking about and trying to come up with solutions for in that task force group. We've also will be running for New North a modern and responsive technology platform committee, I suppose, in order to help kind of figure out how do we move Northeast Wisconsin forward, how do we increase innovation and digital adaptation in the region. And then last but not least, the New IT Alliance will be launching an innovation think tank. So how do we partner education with corporations, corporations with corporations, and startups in order to increase innovation throughout the region. So those are a few of the things that we're working on. And of course, encourage you guys to participate in those areas that are of interest to you, or you know, make sense for your specific focus area. If any of this sounds exciting to you and you'd like to engage, just feel free to send me an email at newitalliance@gmail.com, and I'll add you to our communication lists and get you invited to the meetings as we get those up and running. So that's enough about what we're doing. So next up, we have Becky Walker and her team from Howard Suamico School District, and they're going to share with us the value of starting up a local computer science advisory board. So Becky, I'm going to turn the mic over to you now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, great. Welcome, everybody. Kim had spoken with us about sharing a bit of our journey and shared some questions that people have had. And so the presentation that we'll walk through here really is designed to help address the questions that you have. Might not cover every detail of what's on the slide. You'll see a lot of things on the slide, but it's really meant for you to be able to have access to later, so that you have the information that you need within there. And there's some links in the slide as well that will provide you some more details. So the questions seem to center around, you know, just the process that we've been in the last couple of years and the startup of our advisory board and how that has gone, why we did what we did and how we did it. And so I actually joined the district last year, so this is my second year in the district. I have a background in computer science, so years ago I taught computer science, but have been in administrative roles for the last number of years. And so haven't actually taught it in a while, but have been involved in really trying to ignite interest in computer science careers and courses, and trying to figure out how we make that more of a regular part of the learning of our students from pre-K through 12th grade. And so I've been involved with the new IT Alliance since it started, actually. And so when I came to Howard Suamico last year, we had some parents asking early on in the year some questions about our computer science program. And so I started digging in to be able to respond to those questions, and quickly found that we had some work to do and some things that we wanted to make happen in the area of computer science. And so got together with some other leaders in this area within the district, and we started to do an analysis of the current program that we had going, what was happening at the elementary, what was happening at our intermediate and our middle levels, and then what was happening at the high school. And we found that there were hit or miss types of things happening at the elementary. It wasn't anything consistent that would have been equitable for all students. And at the 5, 6, and 7, 8 levels, kids had elective types of STEM courses that they maybe dabbled here and there, but not every student experienced that. And then at the high school, we had electives in computer science, but the enrollment was low, and there really hadn't been a lot of updates in quite a number of years in terms of what the content was. So that's what we found. And so myself and Travis Driska, who is the lead tech integrator for the district, and then Kyle Seek, who's our director of technology. We started digging in and, looking at what we think we wanted to be able to do. And of course, we had all these great ideas of things we want to do, but what can you realistically do? And so we decided that we needed to do some surveying of all of our staff so that we could figure out what people's understanding even was of computer science and what kind of computer science was being done out there. And so we designed a survey, and we do have a link to it in there so that when you get the PowerPoint, you'll be able to take a look at that. We did use some of the CS for All to be able to design that survey. And so we gave the survey and we analyzed those results and started to develop plans for what we wanted to be able to do from that. And so we decided that we wanted to get going right away on something consistent at the elementary level the following school year. And so we worked on what that would look like. And then our goal was to have an overall pre-K-12 pathway for computer science. And then we started our initial steering committee, which is an internal group, and our initial computer advisory board, which is an external group. So we really had 3 committees that we got started with. The one was the lead team that I mentioned, the few of us that started it. And then we had the community advisory committee, who was people from within our community, and I'll get into that a little bit. And then the steering committee was internal, with bringing more people from within the district. So I'll go into who's a part of each of these. If you want to move forward there, Kim. So the lead team, I was part of the lead team. Kyle, director of technology, and then Travis is coordinator for the technology learning coaches. And then this year, Chad Benke came on board with us, and he is a computer science teacher who is part of the lead team. And then we had Becky Staple, who is one of our technology coaches at the elementary level. And so we wanted to span all of the grade levels and have some people representing to different areas to be a part of our lead team. And so this lead team began working together at the start of this year, which would be our year 2. And we had an exciting opportunity to build our capacity at the CS for All Summit this past winter in Texas. And we went down there and we really worked on more of a formal plan and goals for what we wanted to do in terms of computer science. Got some ideas from other people, and also were able to share other ideas that we had with others so that they can go and learn from that. So really building capacity so that you have support from district leadership to building level leadership and teachers is all really critical. One person can't do this alone, and so our lead team really spanned a lot of different areas and helped to move us forward. So the next committee that I'm going to talk about, if you can flip it there, Kim, is the internal steering committee. So on our internal group, we have teachers from all different levels that connect computer science in some way. We have principals representing all different levels. We have students from the high school level, and we have IT staff and technology coaches or tech integrators, and then people from our district leadership team, and then people from the teaching and learning team. So we have quite a varied group as far as our internal steering committee. And so the lead team really brings things to that steering committee when we need the input of a larger group. So it gives us a sampling of people from across the district to get opinions and things from. And then we also have our community advisory committee. So the benefit of the community advisory committee is we're taking people that are connected to IT fields in a lot of different ways, and we're bringing them together with us to get their input, really spend a lot of time listening to them, so that we can get their input on what they believe we should be doing with our program so that we can develop our pathways. And so our external committee, what we did is we met for the first time actually last spring, and we started forming our committee already in the fall. So it was probably about November of last year, we started kind of putting names down of who we thought in our community would be interested, who we thought could really provide input that would help guide us in the right direction. And so we have people from corporations, from healthcare, from businesses, from financial institutions. We have parents, so a lot of different people from our community on our advisory committee. And then we have people from a variety of different roles. We did not necessarily just go with people who were considered IT or computer science specialists. So we actually brought in people who might hire people that are in the IT field, or people that might be overseeing people in IT but don't necessarily have an IT background themselves. And so we really tried to get a variety, which has been really beneficial. We have people from post-secondary institutions in the area that are computer science teachers or maybe department chairs or something, that type of thing. We also have people from our foundation, because we know that getting their support in terms of the financial backing is really critical. We also have some alumni that have gone into IT fields, people who maybe felt that they got computer science education that was helpful to them, as well as those who maybe think it should look a little different. And people who, you know, then might be in school yet for computer science, or others who are already in careers for IT and our alumni of our district. And then we engaged Michelle Schuler and Kim Iverson and Amy Byers. Actually, it was Mackenzie last year, now it's Amy. We engaged them with our committee as well, as a learning experience on our end and theirs, so that we could work together on helping more districts be able to do this. And so, you know, they participate as much as they are able. And it was pretty amazing, actually, when we had our first computer science meeting last year. The room was very energizing. I mean, our community members were so excited to be there and be part of planning what this looks like. It was just absolutely exciting. And what we did with our first meeting is we had our advisory committee like seated in the center of the room, and then we had our steering committee, that's our internal group, around them, because the idea is we wanted to really be able to intently listen to what our community members had to say to us. We weren't going to bring them together often. We didn't want to pull them from everything that they had going on often. And so when they were with us, the goal was to get everything we could from them so we could take back and we could do our planning with that. And so that structure worked really well for us to be able to listen to them. And we challenged our advisory committee that if they knew of other people in the field that would be interested in helping inform what we're doing, that they should invite other people to participate with us. And by the time we had our second meeting during Computer Science Week this last December, we just couldn't believe how many people that we had additionally joining us, because the people that were on the committee brought other people to us. So it was really, really cool. I'm not sure, John is at UWO, and he is on our committee, and I think I saw his name on the call here today. He was one who brought a few new people to us as we went to the next meeting, which was really awesome. So I guess my point in saying that is, if you're looking at it going, how would we put a committee like this together? How would we know who to bring on? If you can start with a few people they know who else to bring on. And so, so work with the people that you've thought of to try to come up with additional. So if you want to flip to the next one, Kim.
Yep. John thanks you for the shout out, Becky.
Oh, did he? He is on there. I see. I saw him. I thought I saw his name click on. So this one is just our timeline for this year. So I had the first one was a timeline for last year because we were really getting our committee formed and starting to, look at what we were doing. So this is in our second year of what we've been doing over the summer. Spent a lot of time on the programming for elementary because at elementary, our decision was that we built in a half an hour a week that would be designed as innovation lab that students would specifically work on computer science types of activities from kindergarten through fourth grade with a goal of eventually having that computer science immersion. And so we got started with that this year when the program was developed in the summer. And then we had some staffing changes with Chad Banky coming on board with us at our middle school that we made a shift in some of our middle school programming to have more of the coding and computer science as a part of that, and trying to work towards all students having that and not necessarily just an elective. And so we've been implementing that this year. We now have been planning what our programming will be for the high school next year because we're making a change in updating that programming. So we've put a whole new lineup of courses out there for students, and students have taken interest in those. So next year we'll be starting some new courses at the high school at Bayport. And then, so there are some links there to some of the work that Chad's done in terms of the proposed pathway and those course options and a little bit more information on the different courses. We also are enrolling for TEALS for next school year, so that those proposed courses, we will have some TEALS mentors engaged with us there. And then we are planning what will happen now at 5-6 because we've been doing the K-4 work. Kids are going to walk into 5-6 with a different experience and background than what they had before. So we're working on what that 5-6 programming looks like, which will also be changing what we do at 7-8 as kids come through with more background. So when you design, you really have to be flexible in your thinking because it's going to look one way now, but once kids start having more background early on, then what you're doing at the upper grades is going to change to meet that. So the idea is we want to be able to have kids having it K-4 and then having still some required experience during that 5-6 and those 7-8 years, so that by the time they get to high school, then it's full elective on whether or not they're going to continue with that. We also had planned a girls' code event, which for our 5th through 8th graders, which we put the invitation out, and our goal was to try to get 100 girls to participate, and in less than a week, we were well over 100 girls that had signed up, and we were so excited, and then COVID hit. And so we had planned to do it just as schools were required to shut down. So we have a big group of girls that's just waiting on being able to do this when we can reschedule it. So we had a computer science advisory committee. I mentioned that this year that we've had another update with them. And we've also been trying to focus on how we have a balance in male and female teachers with the computer science so that we are encouraging our female, because when we do analysis of our enrollment, we find that we're very low in female enrollment. And so part of that is you got to make sure that you have females teaching it as well so that we encourage that enrollment. So we're working on that area as well. So that's been, what we've done in the 2 years that we've been focused on this and, where we're headed. And we've had a lot of people engaged with us, which has been really exciting. So, this is just some people were wondering how often we meet on things. Our lead team meets weekly. just so that we stay on top of things as to what we're working on. You know, we just meet for an hour and keep up to date with that. Steering committee is a few times a year, and the advisory committee, we were trying to limit it to 2 times a year that we're pulling people together. We do at times reach out and, you know, maybe ask some additional things or connect with them via email, but we're trying to be really cautious about how many times we pull them together face to face, because if you do it too much, then they don't necessarily stay engaged because it's too much pulling on them because they're busy people, and trying to be really purposeful when we gather them together.
All right, thank you. And before I open up for questions, I want to just take us back to the proposed CS pathway, and I'm going to pull that up here. Got it right there. And if you want to, would you mind sharing a little bit about what this is and kind of the vision for the district on how this will work?
Yeah. Chad, are you on right now?
I am now.
Okay, I'm going to let Chad Banky, who is currently teaching at our middle school with computer science and will be teaching our high school computer science courses at Bayport next year. I am going to let him talk through this because he is the brain behind all of this and put these ideas together, and so I'm going to let him speak to it.
All right. Well, I'll first note that not all of these courses are running for next year. On the same slide in the slide deck, you'll see a link to a brochure as well that was used during registration time this year. That one right there. And only, I think it's 5 out of the 8 courses on the CS pathway were options going into next school year. And just based on student request, we'll be running the Keys to Computer Science. So it's an introductory survey level computer science course, very much modeled after the AP CS Principles course, but only running for a semester. And it's minus the large performance tasks that are part of the AP CS Principles course. And it's going to serve as a prerequisite, a foundational class for any of the other classes you see there in red. The cybersecurity and ethical hacking class will be running next year, as well as the 2 AP classes. The smart devices and wearable tech class was offered up as an option, but there weren't enough student requests to justify running it at this time. And then the other classes you see are meant to represent a variety of other IT specialties or emerging specialties, such as...
Chad, I'm going to just interrupt here real quick. I got a question here asking if they were supposed to be seeing some slides. Can everybody see the diagram that says it's a Google Doc? It says HSSD Computer Science Pathway at the top.
Yes, I can.
I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, go on, carry on. Thanks, Chad.
Yeah, I think maybe they're interested in the link to the slide deck, which they don't have access to yet, I don't believe. So maybe that's what they were asking about too. Yep. The other courses that aren't offered yet but are in development in the hopes that we'll be able to offer some additional introductory specialty classes are the database problem solving class, which is essentially envisioned as an introduction to data science. And then the cloud computing and web app development course, which again is meant to be an introductory course to the area of cloud computing and developing web apps, and the artificial intelligence class as well. So the idea here is to make sure we have a good foundational class at the high school level with the keys to computer science. And then students, if they really desire to dig deeper into computer science, IT specialty, that they'll be able to in one of these additional courses. And then the big yellow box you see just indicates the IT Youth Apprenticeship Program that many districts are familiar with. And the idea is that a student, if really interested in pursuing a computer science degree in the future, a computer science related profession or IT related profession, they could also take part in an IT youth apprenticeship if they're concurrently enrolled with 1 credit from any of the above courses. So in a nutshell, that's the vision for our courses in the district. But at this time, we are only moving forward with 5 of the courses for next year.
Excellent. And for those of you who are aware of the IT career pathways, you probably start noting that there is a great structure in place here to start building out so that, in time, if Howard Swamico wants to, they can start declaring that they are offering a cybersecurity career pathway for their students, or, a networking pathway, or whatever the case might be, by having students go through this series of coursework and then tying it in with the youth apprenticeships. So with that, I'm going to pop back over to the presentation and then open it up for questions on this particular segment. I see here, I'm just going to read up here. Michelle mentions that Microsoft does have AI curriculum if you're interested in exploring that with them. She's willing to work with you. So this would be Michelle Schuler. And then Laura's asking, will AI curriculum be integrated into TEALS? And it looks like they're working on doing so. So that's great to know. Thank you for that, Michelle. So any questions for the Howard Swamico team? Either feel free to use the chat or just pipe up, but let us know who you are before you start shouting out. All right, I'll read up the first one here in the chat box. Is your elementary technology learning coach a part-time or full-time position? And this is from Matt Ho.
So one of the things that that we did this year, because we have technology coaches across the district, and one of the things that we did this year with bringing the innovation lab at the elementary K-4 for the classes is we are working with our technology coaches in doing those courses right now, with the idea that then they're coaching in with teachers. So students are learning some of the technology in those 30 minutes a week that they have with students, and then the coaches can work with the teachers, like a grade level of teachers, on what it is that the students are learning, so now it can be integrated into other things that are happening in the classroom. So we're trying to have it be an experience that taking the pressure off of the classroom teacher to actually teach that content for the students, because they might not have that background, but then for the students to be learning it and then help integrate it into other things. So that's the way we've been approaching it. So as we did that, we kind of reorganized our tech integrators so that each of our elementary buildings has a full-time tech integrator at it right now, doing the innovation lab courses and then coaching in with the teachers.
Nice, thank you for that. And then Laura Schmidt, who's joining us from Milwaukee, is asking, where did you say the data science was covered? And it looks like Chad responded in the chat that the data-based problem-solving course is intended to be an introductory DS course. And then so Laura's following up with a question on, will that be integrated into TEALS? Michelle, do you know the answer to that? Or Amy, if you're on the line?
Sorry, I had troubles getting to my mute. I know that there are discussions on AI and data science. I think we will have AI integration before we'll have data science, which means maybe they'll flip that on me, but.
Thank you for that. All right, other questions for the Howard Swamico team?
Kim, this is Ryan Band. Can you guys hear me from Kimberly?
Yes. Hi, Ryan.
Perfect. Hey, Chad, just a quick question in regards to your cybersecurity course. We've been kind of just, poking around at some of the cybersecurity curriculum, looking at like Clark and a couple others. What are you planning on using for that, just out of curiosity? Thanks.
Sure. The course is going to utilize a variety of resources. At this point, I've gathered resources and have taught some of the stuff in the past too, and integrated into other CS courses. There's great content from Cisco Networking Academy. I've been a coach for a Cyber Patriot team before, and the Cyber Patriot program has some great curriculum and activities. And I might try to tap into some of the PLTW cybersecurity curriculum this summer. We'll see if that's even going to be an option, if they're going to be running any other summer sessions. But pulling from there, and then you mentioned Clark as well. Clark's been a good resource, and I've been to some of the cybersecurity camps for teachers that were hosted at UWGB and Marquette, and they've got some good resources as well. So it's going to be designed with not just a single curriculum, I guess, or a single curriculum provider in mind, but from a variety of sources.
That sounds great. Thanks, Chad.
You bet.
Thank you, Ryan, for that question. Laura's got a follow-up question here. She says, this is spectacular work. Do you have support at the post-secondary level to provide credit for prior learning for anything other than AP-CSP or AP-CSA?
So in terms of post-secondary right now, we are in the, as we've looked at putting new classes out there now for next year, because we've not started those classes at the high school yet. We are connecting with NWTC, and we hope to connect with GB and St. Norbert and other institutions in the area to make sure that the pathway we're creating has a smooth transition to post-secondary institutions in the area, so that when students are looking at what they might want to do, that there's a smooth pathway to go those different directions. And so those conversations, actually, we had some scheduled in the past month that we've had to reschedule due to the whole COVID situation. But we do really want to make those connections. So I don't have specific answers yet, Chad. I don't know if there's anything you would add in terms of direction we plan to be able to go, but just haven't been able to have the conversations yet. I had a meeting scheduled for us with Mike Vanderheiden at NWTC, and that's one that we have to reschedule. I don't know if Mike's on the call today.
All right. Other questions? These are all fantastic questions, so keep them coming. We've just got a few more minutes before we need to roll to the next topic. So don't hold back.
If somebody doesn't have one right now, I don't know if John Roska, I don't know if you just want to talk a little bit from the perspective of being one of our advisory committee members.
Yes, thank you. It was just a great experience being able to see what the high school was doing and being able to provide input, especially from my experience working in the community of different industries, as well as being a professor. So it was great to be a part of that and bringing folks on that I thought might add value to it. There's not a huge ask of community members. Really, as a community member, I was asked to attend 2 meetings, answer a couple of emails. And so I think the key is really going out and asking the right folks, identifying and asking the right folks to be part of the group, so that you can have a good group giving the high school feedback.
Thanks. Yeah, and like I said, John brought new members to us because he has connections in the community that we don't have, and people came and contacted us, and we're excited to be part of it. So that's been really great. I don't know, Travis and Kyle are on the call as well. I don't know if any input you want to add in terms of the survey or the experiences we've had?
Sure. The survey was something that I pulled together, as Becky mentioned, from CS for All. We use the script rubric as kind of a guidepost. We wanted to kind of ground this into some of the work we're also doing with the League of Innovative Schools with the Digital Promise. They've actually have a computational thinking cohort, which we participate in as well. So it was very insightful to really see what people interpreted as computer science. And I really believe it's so critical to get that data on the front end, primarily because it's information. It's information that can guide the conversations, good or bad. It's just the reality of the information of how do you design this then so we have a continuity of flow, as Becky said, and experience for the kids from pre-K-12. And we can guarantee then that at least exposure is happening up to a certain grade level. And then from there, hopefully the momentum will continue to flow into the high school courses. And super excited about what we're developing as a team and the CS for All experience of getting those goals and metrics of what's going to happen on 3 months, 6 months, a year from now. It's so important to take that time to have those because, as you all know, as you're in the work, and it's hard to just carve out that time. So the intentionality of this team has really been phenomenal. I'm glad to be part of it.
And, you know, on the survey results, we gave it to all staff. And so you really want to get a sense of where people are at and be open-minded about where they're at, because it just is information on what you're going to need to do to have a district that's more focused on computer science. And so, you know, we ask people whether they do computer science, and, you know, there are people that from their experience level and their understanding believe that if kids in their classroom are using a computer, then they're teaching computer science. And so that's just the reality of what, that's the reality of where people are at. And you just have to accept that that's where people are at. And so it's all information. So,
I'd beg to differ there. I think everyone in here represents educational initiatives, and if somebody has a misunderstanding of something, doesn't it fall upon us to educate them correctly?
Yeah, so what it told us is it told us the understanding level that people had. So now we know what we have to do to build capacity. Because now we know that there are some people that the level understanding is that's what they think computer science is. So now we have to educate them on what it truly is and why kids need it. So the survey that we did with people told us where people are actually at, so we know what we need to do to get to where we need to be.
Perfect. And I've had a couple of questions from folks. Just to reiterate, the presentation will be put out on our website, and we'll share a link out to that with everybody who registered for today's meeting. And Becky and her team have been kind enough to provide us a link as well to their survey, so we can see, you know, kind of what kind of questions they were asking of their staff. And then we've got one last question here from Laura Schmidt. How have you overcome the barrier of others misunderstanding the scope of tech careers?
So those are things that we're actually still working on to try to help people understand that. So that, you know, we're still in the midst of it. I wouldn't say that we've overcome that, especially when you look at, you know, teachers. Many teachers in their experience haven't been involved in tech careers and don't necessarily have that in-depth technology understanding and experience. I mean, we're seeing that now as we're learning from home, that's not an easy transition. And so there's definitely capacity building that has to be done there, and we're working on how we do that. And I think we use the kids to help do that, because kids are excited about this. When we shared late fall with some of our students at the high school who have been taking computer science courses and our enrollment's been low, we shared with some of them the lineup of courses that we had last year, and they were just jumping out of their skin. They were so excited about the options that they would have. And we said, you know, what do you think you want to take, and what do you want to do with it? And they were just, I don't even know which one to take because I'm so excited about the possibilities. And so when I look at that excitement for students, and they sat down with teachers at that meeting and shared that excitement and the conversations that went to help those teachers understand the kinds of things that they're interested in, I really think we need to use the kids to be able to do that.
Yep. All right. Thank you. And just as I've advanced the slides here, Laura's got one more comment here. Our post-secondary education programs do not prepare teachers to support ISTE standards prior to placing them into service. That is an issue. I completely agree with you, Laura, and that's something well, as we move forward as a community and as a new IT Alliance organization, we do need to be working with our higher eds to identify teachers who are interested in, you know, going into computer science education and helping prepare them. All right, well, thank you.
Right, and keep in mind with that there's things that people can do teaching with computer science that they don't necessarily have to have a computer science degree. So there's lots of options, and you're right. So even teachers going into elementary and things like that, we need to provide different training so that they're prepared to do that at the elementary.
Yep, perfect. All right, well, thank you. I want to just huge thanks to Becky and her team for presenting today and for sharing their path with us. I wish I had a clapping machine here so we could all give you an applause. So appreciate you guys taking the time to be with us today.
Thanks for having us.
And now I'd love to move into our group discussion. So with that, got some questions here just to start the dialogue. You know, what are you guys doing? How did you make the transition in order to, you know, continue education during this lockdown that we're in? What do you find is working? What could be better? What tools do you wish you had on hand? And then in talking with Becky and the team yesterday, we've got talking a little bit about, you know, they're having discussions about how they're going to be grading this semester. Will it be pass, fail, or letter grade? How will their summer classes be impacted? What are they doing about graduation? And then even, you know, there is a little bit of dialogue in the media about a possible wave 2 in the fall. Are you thinking about that yet? And what are your plans for that? And, you know, I'd really love to invite we've got a few people from our colleges here, and we had a few employers on the phone too. You know, love to get you engaged in this conversation as well. What are you guys doing at the collegiate level that might help our K-12 folks, and then also from our employers? You know, what are you doing? Because I've talked with some of the employers, and I'm hearing similar threads of conversation across the entire ecosystem. So, you know, feel free to hop in and share your thoughts and learnings based on what your organization as well. So Becky, I don't know if you want to kick us off with some of the things that you shared yesterday that you guys are doing and discussing, and then we'll invite everybody else to join in the conversation.
Yeah, I can kick off with some things. You know, one of the things that we had actually done about 5 weeks or so prior to this hitting is based upon the tough weather that we had last winter, we had begun this past fall putting in a plan for digital learning at home on snow days, so that we'd be able to continue instruction on those days. So we had put a guide together for parents and for teachers on what we would do on those days, and we actually sent it out to families like at the beginning of February, I think it was, that we had sent it out to families. And that was planning for a day of bad weather, and suddenly we needed it for extended closure because we were thinking 2 weeks. And so we took that guide and we just kind of modified it for what it would be for a 2-week period of time. So that was really like our phase one. Our guide is available on our website if anybody's interested in it. But that was really our phase one of how we were kind of going to get through 2 weeks and then be able to come back. Just yesterday was supposed to be the day we were thinking that we would be able to come back. And of course, now we're looking at what does this mean if we're out the rest of the school year, because that's likely to be the case. So we're now in the process of planning phase two and finalizing some of that this week. And we'll be putting that out because we did the 2 weeks and we just did a survey of our staff and of our families this past weekend. And so we're using that input now to inform what the phase two plan looks like. And so now we'll be doing things a little bit different, just more structured as to what a week will look like, what different days of the week will look like, because now we know it's really an entire quarter of the school year. So, so stay tuned for that on what we're going to be doing. We're trying to work in planning time for teachers, how often lessons are being done that would have like new learning for students, and how much students have to be able to work on the things that they've been doing, just trying to provide guidelines for that. We heard from our survey this past weekend that kids are spending more time than what our guidelines were, and so we're trying to adjust because we don't want to burn staff out, we don't want to burn students out, we don't want to burn parents out, because it's not easy for anybody, and so we're really trying to listen to all that. We're doing, like at the elementary K4 level, students are 60 to 90 minutes a day, and at the 5-6 intermediate level and the 7-8, we're at 20 minutes per course per day, and at the high school, 30 minutes per course each day. So, so those are kind of the guides that we've been doing. We use Schoology and Seesaw at the elementary. And so that's been our tool. That was a rough start. If you use Schoology, you know what I'm talking about, because they were not prepared for everybody to be on at one time. So working some of those bugs out now. But we use that as a tool. And, you know, the areas that we're focused on, we've kind of concentrated it to 5 different areas. Best practices so that students can be engaged meaningfully. Engagement itself, how do we get them to participate? The grading has been a big topic of conversation for people. And then what that schedule looks like, and you know, what that means for people on a regular basis in terms of the schedule each day. And then the other one is the essential learnings. So we're in the process of determining what are we going to focus on the rest of the year, because in math and literacy specifically, we need to decide what those essential learnings are going to be so that we're consistent. So as we move into next fall, assuming we get to come back face to face, what kind of gaps are we going to have and how are we going to address those gaps? So like then that's the next phase of planning, is how we address when we come back, if we get to be face to face or not. We've also been talking about summer school. There's some rules that the state has around summer school at the different grade levels as to what can be online and what can't. And I know they're looking at those rules, trying to decide if they're going to bend on any of those for this year to allow us more options for virtual learning over the summer, because we're concerned about the gaps that are already there and then what will happen over the summer. We're looking at, if we are able to go face-to-face, possibly late summer coming back to a face-to-face summer school option for people, but also trying to do some online throughout the summer. We haven't decided yet on graduation. We've had a lot of conversation around it, a lot of push from the community to have a face-to-face option somehow, whether it's in the fall or what the case might be. I know I've heard discussion about virtual options, some places for graduation. So we're just trying to figure out what that looks like. Grading is definitely a hot topic, and we're trying to figure out exactly how we want to do that. I've been following some other districts across the nation and what they've done, and trying to learn from what's happened those places before we announce exactly how we're going to do that, whether it's passing completes or there are actual letter grades. We're looking at a lot of different options, and we'll make some decisions this week.
Excellent. I see Marcy from CISA 7 has offered to give an update on what they're doing and discussing. So Marcy, if you'd like to share, that'd be great.
No problem. CISA 7 works with 38 districts in northeastern Wisconsin, and we've been providing webinars via Google Hangouts and Google Meets, Zoom for the past 4 weeks, and we've been able to actually reach 38 districts and over 1,200 educators in that process. So we've been doing networks by content area, as well as providing support for paraprofessionals, as well as education tools. So we have those planned through the April 24th day, where most people in education, and I think in life in general, are, holding our breath until we get through that April 24th day, when the governor will probably make or extend, or at least give us more guidance on where we're going. Districts in our area are anywhere from going into their 4th week, providing virtual learning. Those that were kind of rocking and rolling with technology, this transition was quite smooth for them. We do still have one district that is just offering programming to students in an enrichment fashion, so it's not required. We did have a few school districts, because the initial order was through April 6th, so they were using kind of spring break time and things like that. So April 6th, we had a handful of our districts that were offering things at the elementary and middle school, primarily focusing on core curriculum, where the electives or the specials are being done on a voluntary basis. At the high school, obviously, because there's credits towards graduation, the elective areas need to be offering programming as well. Grading conversations, the state is not providing any guidance on how grading should be approached. That is being left up to local control. 2 weeks ago, CISA 7 had a meeting with the principals and superintendents from the area, as well as some educational lawyers. The guidance that came out of that meeting, because of access and equity, there are a lot of components for a district to take into account as they choose which grading practices or policies they want to take in this time. So most of the elementary and middle school have gone to a pass, no fail model, where the students will pass if they meet the benchmark standards, things like that they had aligned, but they're not going to go with a fail model, that either a pass no grade or a pass incomplete. What that means, because at this point we don't even know if we are getting to have summer school or what format summer school would even possibly be in. So at the high school, grading goes in a variety of different ways depending on the district. Some districts are doing grading practices as they always have. Other districts are going the pass, incomplete, or a letter grade the student gets to pick. Some are making sure that any grades from quarter 4 or semester 2 do not count towards the student's grade point average, but does count towards credit completion. And so there's a lot of dialogue around grading in the state, but really it is left up to local control. I do think the positive thing about this, we know the educational system will never look the same again. And in many ways that's for the positive, because it's pushed people outside of their comfort zones and really has allowed for amazing collaboration between educators within their own district as well as across the state, and implementing tools with much more fidelity. Most of our schools are using Seesaw, Google Classroom, Canvas, or Schoology for their delivery of their curriculum. Some have district-wide platforms that they are using. Others, it is left up to the teacher. I will say from a parent point of view, it is much easier for my 6th grader when Google Classroom is used by all of her teachers as compared to my 9th grader who needs to go into Google Classroom and Schoology and email to try to organize his life. But for the most part, everybody's kind of holding their breath. I think we're all kind of in crisis mode. And then once we get through that October 24th, I think that's when, if we get the kind of go ahead that we're probably going to stay in this format, I think that's when educators will start tapping into wanting more tools, more tech tools to be able to use. Right now, we're just trying to get kids engaged, get families engaged, and kind of create policies and practices as we move forward.
Thank you for that, Marcy. On the grading, because we've got a few folks on the line representing our collegiate system, both the 2 and the 4 year, I'd love to hear your thoughts on, the pass fail versus grade. How are you guys going to handle that? And I know you're worrying about that just within your own student body, but as we look at these, uprising high school students who will be in your campuses next semester, hopefully, what are your thoughts on how you're handling a pass incomplete versus a letter grade from graduating seniors this year?
This is Doug from FETC. We're going to be handling it very flexibly.
Okay, so you're not. I mean, obviously we can't. Flexibility is good, right? Because this is sort of an unprecedented event that we're dealing with right now.
Yep, because we may have students that we're asking students to decide by May 1st if they want to go with a letter grade or go with a pass-fail for the classes that we have. We're actually even being flexible beyond that date just because they didn't ask for this, we didn't ask for this. So the key word is flexibility. And that goes as we move into prereqs for the next classes and everything else.
Okay, so you're just going to take that kind of the same mentality then and bring it down for your incoming students as well then?
Correct.
Perfect. I don't know, Jakob or John, I know you guys are on the call from UWO. Any thoughts there from your institution? Any ideas what the discussions are?
In terms of grades coming in for admission, I haven't heard any decisions having been made, but the discussion is the same as Doug was echoing. It's about flexibility, but I think right now those that are looking at it haven't made determinations as to exactly what that would look like. We have the same discussions on what are we doing for our students in terms of grades. For us, they will have a 2-week period after the end of the semester. Once grades are in, they can make a decision as to whether to keep a letter grade or switch to a passing or failing grade for that class. And those, if I remember the policy right, those passing grades will not count, or the failing grades will not count towards GPA or credits. So they will sort of like be as if they didn't happen.
Now, from the college level, what are some of those considerations that your students are having to make as far as, do I go with the letter grade versus a pass-fail type of grade?
Right. So one of the things they would have to look at is what is it going to do to their GPA? So if they had a letter grade, how would keeping that letter grade, what would that affect their GPA? It might go up. And so they would have an interest in keeping it. For students that are moving on to grad school, there may be implications for having a particular grade in a particular course to get into a graduate program. And so for us, in that 2-week period, students would have to meet with an advisor before they're able to switch to a pass or fail grade. But they would be able to do that for any grade that they choose. There might be financial aid implications as well. So if you are suddenly not a full-time student anymore, financial aid might be impacted. So there's a lot of different implications for our students that they would have to take into account. So it's not an easy decision, but I think the policy that has been put out allows for maximum flexibility for the students. And as I understand it, for the feedback from students so far on the policy has been to make sure that the letter grades can stay. So they don't all want to move to pass-fail.
You brought up an interesting point with the financial aid, and I'm going to pick at that one a little bit more, just because not only does it, impact our incumbent collegiate student body because of whether it's employee reimbursement funding or it's a scholarship, but that's also something that could be impacting our high school seniors, because they frequently need a specific GPA in order to either get or retain a scholarship type gift, monetary gift. And I don't know if I have any employers. I heard Greg Levenhagen. Do I have Cindy Enley on the line too?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, I'd love to hear the employer perspective on some of this. So, because your foundations or companies sometimes are the ones actually providing the scholarships and or providing the employee reimbursement for those who are already in college but working side at the same time. Are you looking at those policies this year to see if we need to be flexible, to borrow Doug's term?
This is Cindy, so I can jump in. I mean, I think we haven't specifically looked at those yet, but I think it would follow suit to what I'm hearing from the educators, that there's going to have to be flexibility. So, that'll be something we'll need to look at to see what the impact would be, and to ensure that we're following the flexibility that we see within the educational world.
Greg, I don't know if you're in a role at Skyline to kind of be aware of their policies or know if they're, what
Yep.
they might be doing. But if you are, would you mind speaking on that a little bit?
Yeah. Unfortunately, very much like what Cindy and Doug and Jakob have said. As far as I'll just leave it at that. I'm not sure what I can all disclose, but
Okay. Flexibility is the name of the game, huh?
Okay.
All right. Others of our school districts, things that you're looking at or talking about right now. I don't know if graduation is something that might be hot topic for many of you on the line right now as we move into the second half of the month of April here. Graduations aren't too far away.
Kim, this is Doug. Could I just jump in on one of your points that you have on the slide here?
Definitely.
I think that this whole scenario that we're living in right now really points to the need for broadband access across the entire state. We're facing that with our students, our faculty. We bought 100 hotspots to try and get folks online, both students and staff. But I mean, if this may become the new normal, and otherwise we're going to be setting up deserts of people that literally can't compete and participate in this economy.
Oh, that's an excellent point. And towards that end, and I can't recall if I put it in here. I think I may have, but there is, yes. So in the slide deck, there's a survey that I received this morning. I sent it out to the higher eds. If you'd please fill that out. But DPI and Wisconsin Public Services are pulling together a Wi-Fi location map, and a link to that map is also included in the deck. And these are hotspots that people can, I'll call them drive-up hotspots. So places where individuals can go to work or to do their school work, sit in a parking lot, and connect up for free to the internet so that they can get their work done. So know that that information is here in the deck, and I will, like I said, I will send it out following the meeting to everybody who registered for today's meeting. And that is something, feel free to share with your employees or your students at your various institutions as well, so they know where they can go. And it's an interactive map, so they can click in and drill into locations near where they live. But you're right, Doug, that's going to be huge. A teacher from Sturgeon Bay contacted me yesterday and said, we've often talked about the digital divide. She referred to it now, it's becoming the digital gorge. In how do we start closing that between the haves and the have-nots so that we can continue with educational equity, regardless of where you live, because it's not just a socioeconomic challenge. It's also a physical location challenge in many parts of Northeast Wisconsin. And hence that is one of the topics that we'll be discussing in that called the COVID postmortem committee that I'll be pulling together. So if you have an interest in participating in that COVID discussion committee, so we can talk through some of these challenges and then start figuring out who do we pull in to come up with solutions and implement those solutions. Let me know. I'd love to have some of you who are feeling the pain, not only from an employment side, but also from an education side, be part of that dialogue and part of the solution for the region. All right. Excellent. Thank you, Doug. I will definitely include you in that. So others from our school districts, items here that you want to share that you're doing really well, or would just like to hear what others are maybe doing related to any of the topics here, or another COVID-related topic that you might have. All right, so how are we all handling graduation this year?
FETC is canceled.
You guys have canceled it entirely. Okay. I know. So I have two students who I have two children who are in college. One at UW Milwaukee. They've postponed their May graduation until October, and then we've not heard anything from Stevens Point on what they're doing. Jakob, what's UWO doing? Do you know yet?
Some of it. There will be a virtual graduation ceremony on the date that we would have had the ceremony on May 16, I believe. And students are also welcome to walk in the December graduation. What the virtual graduation ceremony will look like, I don't know. I don't think they've really gotten their hands around it. So we'll see. It's been promised it will be as much pomp and circumstance as they can squish into it. So, but beyond that, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah,
Lakeland's has been delayed as well. I'm thinking they're going to push for August at the end of summer, but not quite sure yet.
Excellent. And I keep thinking about, the technology impacts of all of this, right? And on the topic of graduation, I saw a photo on Facebook the other day about a graduation ceremony in Japan where they had two robots with iPad faces, and the robots walked to the stage, and the face that was displayed on the iPad was changed based on the next student in line. So you virtually walked across the stage and the robot received your diploma cover for you. And then you got your photo taken with the president of the college or whomever it was that was handing them out. And I thought, well, that's definitely a new way to do it. How about the parade style graduation ceremonies? Anybody considering that this year? All right, not share. All right. Let's continue on. We're just about near the end of the meeting. So we'll move on to our wrap up. All right, I already mentioned the Wi-Fi location survey and drive up Wi-Fi locations, and those links will be shared with you after the meeting here. Key dates. So the K-12 surveys that we sent out that I talked about at the beginning of the meeting, those are due back on April 21st. The other surveys that were sent out went out to some of our business leaders in the region, and theirs are due back also towards the end of this month. And then, yes, Harley, I will be sharing the presentation. Yep. And then our next advisory board meeting, CS advisory board meeting, will be on September 30th, and we'll have another one on December 8th. Our quarterly meetings, these are, I'll say, a little bit more membership focused, or I should rather say more for the business community, though we encourage our educators to come as well if you're able. So our next one is on April 30th, and that will be via Zoom. And we'll have sorry, my brain just completely blanked out. So our guest speaker will be from JJ Keller, and she is the lead of their testing team, so for their software testing team. And she'll be talking about how you do testing in an agile environment. So love to have you guys all join us for that as well. And then we'll meet again on October 1st and January 14th. Our Tech Talent Summit, this has formerly been the report out for the Digital Learning Opportunities Survey. This will be on June 16, and it will be sort of a combination quarterly and advisory meeting. So we're inviting all of our corporate partners to this event as well. And we'll be sharing the data not only for K-12, but all the way up through the pipeline. So K-12, higher ed, and the organizational level data too. And then the collaborative intern event, this is something we do for our local companies, will be on June 23rd. We'd hope to do face-to-face, but given the current environment, we're going to build this one out to be delivered via Zoom, connecting interns with local nonprofits to do some work for them. And then finally, the new Connect IT event will either be on November 17 or 19 at Lambeau Field, assuming that we're all able to get together face-to-face by then. And we're waiting for the exact date. We are waiting on the NFL to announce their schedule in order to finalize the dates for this event. I did check, looks like the NFL is hoping to get the schedule out by May 9th, which is about 3 weeks later than they typically do. As with so many other things, they are also delayed due to the COVID outbreak this year. And we are working to bring in WICTRA, which is the Wisconsin Cyber Threat Resource Alliance, to talk about cyber security careers, cyber safety, and possibly even have a red team, blue team event with a select group of high school students who will get to walk through that exercise throughout the day. So more to come on that, and we'll keep you posted via both our newsletter as well as our advisory meetings and quarterly meetings. So with that, thank you, Marcy. I see that you'd like to help with the new Connect IT event, and thank you, Greg, for offering to help with the postmortem discussions as well. So with that, that is a wrap for this month's meeting. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you at the meeting in June. Take care and stay well, everyone.
Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.